Welcome to Science and the Mystical. Today we have someone so special. Gaianna is here to share with us her very unique talents. And we originally met at a psychic fair, I think.
That's
What
right.
I recall. Yeah, so
Yeah.
welcome.
Oh, thank you.
Very nice
And
to have you.
and we have to say special in all the right ways.
Yes, that's right. Special in all the right ways. Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah,
today
that's right. What's that?
I was just going to say today you have a little bit of a cold, so we're going to give you
I
the chance to have sips of water and suck on a
oh,
lozenge.
well, that's very kind of you, Maureen.
Oh, gee. Aw. So why don't we just start off and you can tell us a little bit about yourself and where all your unique talents began.
Sure. Well, let's see here. Let's go back, way back. I was 12, 13, when I started seeing spirits. In fact, I saw them before that time. And luckily my mom had she's British, and so she knows all about, the psychic world. And so she took me to the Psychic Society to start developing my skills. Can you believe it?
What?
I know. I was so lucky, so lucky. And so over time I got to know, the psychic realms, and what clairvoyance meant and what it was. And with what I'm working with now is something called light language. And I had the roots of light language came in when I was about 18 or 19, and I was going through like a lot. Like as all 18 or 19-year-olds, it's always so much more extreme, isn't it? And I went down to the ocean and I was like, I got to talk to God, or source or universe. I was like, I just got to talk and I got to find out what is going on in my life. And I started speaking this language that I'd never heard myself speak before. And it seemed like, from if anyone was listening, it would sound like gibberish. But inside of it, there was like, I was having visions. I was like connecting with something so genuine. Like it was the universe. It felt like I was able to speak, but I was speaking this language. It's like this information was coming through, but it wasn't coming through my mind. It was coming from my soul. And it was like not just what I thought was going on, like the issues that were coming up that I was speaking about weren't just the surface issues of what was going on in my life, but it was like these really deep issues of soul. And as I was speaking, answers were coming right back to me at the same time. And so it was like this multi verse language. It was like speaking and receiving, emitting and receiving at the same time. It was so fascinating. So I think it was only like 5 or 10 minutes maybe. And then when I was done, my issues had been totally corrected. And like I had a huge perspective on what had happened and what was happening. And I felt like the sense of like deep love, like I'd been looked after. And so that was my first understanding of light language. And I spoke it here and there during like rough times in my life. And it was like my source go-to place, right? And so it was like I knew I could go back there and it's like receive divine guidance. I could receive whatever it was I needed. So originally I used it as communication. It was the way that I would communicate with source. And and then it came in. Um, I was working with healing modalities with clients about 4 years ago, and I was working with something called the emotion code, and I really like it. It's super powerful. It totally works like a charm. But I need something more organic, universe. I'm like something that will like work where I can just like I don't have to relearn it. And the next day I came across a YouTube video where a woman was using light language. I'd never heard the term before, light language to heal the heart chakra. And when she spoke, it was like she spoke the language I understood. And my heart totally expanded during that. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was so quick, right? To like get like an answer so quickly. And so within 4 months, I was developing systems with my guides to work with healing with light language, because there's not really any structure out there on how to do it. And so, but because I was already in the healing field, um, it was like working out, okay, so what needs to happen, this, that, and the other. So since then, I've been working with clients, and I decided to take it out onto YouTube recently so that it can work with a broader amount of people who are looking for this kind of help. So
What happened the day you realized that you were actually doing something that had a name or a title or a little category? Like
oh
that
my
must have
God.
been amazing.
Well, it was because it was like I was doing this thing that I thought was just like, it was like hidden in the silent vault of my heart.
Hmm.
And I, because I could never share it with anyone because I didn't feel like anyone would really understand. Like maybe I shared it with like a couple of people, but that was it, because it was so different from anything I'd ever seen out there or heard. Um, and so yeah, when I saw that it was there and there was like someone speaking it, and then googling it or searching for light language and learning that all these people are doing it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm not alone. How do people
Oh.
get it?
Did your mom share in kind of your little secret, your side gig?
Oh yeah, good question.
I've met your mom. She's amazing.
Oh,
She's such a little sprite.
she is such a little sprite. She was at
Yeah.
that psychic fair too,
She
that
was.
yeah,
She
that
was
we met.
wonderful. I think I spoke to her first
Oh
and then
really?
spoke with you.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Oh yeah, well, she just loves the psychic fields, psychic realms. My I don't even know if I did. I'm sure I might have mentioned something, but like I didn't feel like I had to hide it from her because she's so open. But um yeah, it wasn't until like around that time where I was like so excited that I'd found um kind of like my place. I guess you could call it like my place in a
Mm.
sense, because it just things made sense. And then there was a whole community out there who was doing it. It wasn't as big as it is now for sure.
Mhm.
Um, but it was there. There was enough people to make it there. So yeah, it was exciting.
So if you had to define what language is, what is it?
Define language. Well, if I was defining, you mean light language? Okay. So the way I've come to know it is we all have, we all speak, we all have known light language. It is our innate communication um, modality. Like it's just what naturally emanates from us. And if you compare it with like any learned language that has to be memorized and funneled through the brain, um, that can be considered more of a dead language. I'm not being mean, but it's just like it doesn't have the vibrancy and it doesn't have the life because it works via the brain. Unless of course it's connected to the heart. That's a whole different story, because when there's a heart-centered person who's speaking, then you can really feel their soul. light language itself has multiple, it's like a versatile um, language, because you can speak with it. So like for the, speaking with source, you can heal with it. And there's multiple other things you can do with it, which is what I also work with, which is um, awakening codes within people. Um, so, for instance, if someone's ready to awaken into a new area of their life, more love, joy, new abilities, this can activate them, and also release energy that isn't, that's inhibiting them from moving forth in that direction. Um, Light language, the term light language itself, like you think there's going to be light shining from my mouth or from a light language practitioner's mouth. But what is actually, from my understanding, it's not necessarily visible light, but it is frequency. And so when frequency moves, one moment, when frequency is emitted, then it has it's like, okay, maybe I should back up for a second. Light language comes from source. At its origins, it can be funneled through different aspects. So through our source self, so through my source self, it can come through another, like a celestial being. So like channeling a celestial being, because the only reason I find that I open and channel with other beings, like other light vibrational beings, is because they are masters. They have certain things that can be offered to the person in front of me. And so so it can be channeled through celestial beings, or angels, or some people do fairies, and it's just a higher vibrational, like more coherent light being that can do the work. And so when I work, everyone's got their own way of, just like we have all varieties of psychic abilities, and some are more comfortable for some than others. When I go into these realms, I experience multiple things. So I experience visionary, I'm very clairvoyant. And so I see things, I see a lot of things. Some of them may totally make sense about what's happening. Some of them may feel totally right, but I can't totally name exactly what's happening. Sometimes I can see what's happening and totally be able to name what's going on. So for instance, like a clearing of like the spine, or like um, uh, codes being emitted into someone's aura, or past life challenges being released, and getting to feel the flavor of those things. And so like those kinds of things. So it's like I'm conscious and aware, and I get to see really amazing things, and it's never the same. And so when someone is experiencing light language, they can, it doesn't matter like if you're visionary or not, or auditory, or whatnot, you're still going to get the upgrades. And so what will happen is, the basically my source self is going to be talking with your source self, and your source self is going to take what it is ready for in that moment, of that light language session, and work through your system, release what is ready to be released, upgrade what's ready to be upgraded. but these light language sessions often come through as a package of information. And so there's also often multiple upgrades that can be done in for one session. So you just listen back another certain amount of times to the session, and then MP3, and then you just get the downloads and get the releases until you're aligned into that path and frequency.
So I have a question. Yeah, that's like very clear. I
Okay.
really appreciate that. Yeah,
Great.
I have a better understanding, and I hope people that are listening, are getting the gist of it if they're not familiar. And so what I hear is that this information can come from the angelic realm, can come from the elementals, and it can come from galactics as well, which would be like people, entities, not creatures, entities, maybe entities from other planetary systems, or ETs. I read somewhere that it can also be ETs. Is there any kind of energy that tries to come in that you go, no, sorry, not here? Does that
That's
ever
a really
happen?
good, excellent question, Maureen.
Great.
I'm sure that you deal with that a lot too, with like the work you did. So I am very clear on who can show up and who can't show up. So it's basically in my field. I can sense lower vibrational beings, but they just don't show up anymore. And my attunement is to positive, higher vibrational beings. So it doesn't really, for me, it doesn't really matter their origins. What matters is that the work is done, the work gets to be done, and that that they are for the highest outcome of this individual or the collective. When I'm working on YouTube, I'm working with the collective, basically. So we're working with like collective issues, and so it's really, that is really fun for me, because we're all connected, right? And so we have this like this similar issues that are going on, even though we think it's all just as, it's just me, I'm just experiencing this. No, we have like, we're collectively going through so much. And so I'm able to work with the human collective, and help to release things and advance us in certain directions that I'm being guided that we're going, as well as witnessing that we're going in these directions. So it's like, let's make this easy for us. Yeah.
Do you understand all that comes through you? Like, do you have a cognitive recollection of all, or does it go through your mind and then into your spirit self, or is it all spirit?
Yeah, it's more like my mind gets to glimpse here and there about what's happening. I would give it maybe a 15% that I get to cognize. Other things, I feel it and I know what's happening, but ask me to describe it and I cannot. It's like if you ever had an experience of what God feels like, and someone's like, well, what does it feel like? And so then it's like, you can only use words to describe that much of like a spiritual experience. And so that's where my 10 to 15% comes in. But lots of light language activators, they don't even they just don't, they just do it and they know that it's working, but they don't get to see or feel what is happening. And that's okay too. I mean, it's still, if you come away and you're feeling transformed, then it's done the job, right? We don't actually need to see or know these things, but it's just fun. Like I like to know, on some level that what's happening, because I've worked with clients where it's like I'm witnessing, say like with the spine instance, like witnessing a clearing down of the spine, and I'll say it during a session, and afterwards often happens with people who are visionary themselves, or awake, because often you'll fall asleep and people like to fall asleep too,
Uh,
is that like this one woman, it was like, oh my gosh, when you were saying it, it was happening at the same time. I was feeling it before you said it. And so it's like those kinds of things, like it's affirming and you get to know that it's happening.
so you're informing the body and the spirit with regards to what serves it at the highest level. Is that maybe a way to say it?
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
do you find that if people, and I'm sure it happens where they probably don't know it consciously, but they're rejecting an aspect or just like, whoa, um, resistant to something that's
Right.
coming in,
Right.
does
Good
that just
question.
kind of stay in the database out here until we're ready to go pick it up?
Well, yeah, absolutely. That
Mm.
as well. And and that's totally fine as well. Like we get, whatever we're ready to assimilate. But at the same time, in all honesty, it doesn't happen that often. And part of the reason why is because we're getting what we're ready for. In fact, people show up on my doorstep because they're ready for something and they want it. They want a shift in their lives, they want a change. And so
Mm.
there's an element where they've made a decision, they've made that leap already, into receiving. And but having said that, or I should say not but, I never like buts, I like the and.
Yeah, right.
So and if ever, like during it, like if your listeners are um listening to a light language activation, and say there's like a big energy that comes up in the body, or it's like a feeling of resistance or whatnot, you can always, first off, you can call upon your own guides. Like I suggest this anyway, um, calling upon your own guides, guardians, angels to be with you and to help with this. Even though it's just a kind of a mental affirmation kind of thing, even though it's happening by your source self. Um, and so then you feel safe enough to relax, and that they're taking care of, also an aspect of it. So when you know that you're in good hands and you're good to go, then you can just, if you feel like welling up of energy in the body where it just feels big and intense, you can breathe it out. It's like letting an elephant out of the gates into freedom, basically. So it's like this has been pent up energy that has been longing for coherence, it's been longing for its own freedom in a sense. And so it's just like opening and allowing it to open to, let release into freedom. And so then it can come back to its natural structuring. Um, does that make sense?
It does,
Okay.
absolutely. So I'm curious, like when you're in the zone, do those who have passed try to come through as well to support the person who may be journeying through something?
That's a really good question. It's funny because no, I haven't had that.
Hmm.
What I have had is other people's guides, their angels, and it's probably because, well, I don't know. Um, it's probably because it's this is probably why it's because it's the frequency I'm working with. And so as much as maybe it would be awesome, and you can always call upon your parents to like be with you, during this as
Mhm.
well. But it's the high frequency light beings that have got this down. They're like the masters that are working with this. I have had people's past life selves show up, so and clarify certain things to do healing on their current self, which is really
Interesting.
interesting. Yeah, that gets
Mhm.
interesting because it's like, well, are we ahead of them in time, or is this like what's going on? So it just shows another level of connection as well.
Because you're working with past, present, future,
That's right.
essentially.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. Yeah.
And it seems, because I've had this done with you, which was so
Yeah.
amazing.
Bless.
And I always envision ancestors in a circle around, just
Mm.
as a, I don't like the word protection
Hmm.
because I feel we're safe.
Right.
And in
It's like a
my,
support, maybe.
yeah, as a
Yeah.
supportive circle, as a sacred
Mm,
space, like
beautiful.
creating sacred space. And
Beautiful.
that happens for me more than it happens with the angelic realm or
Right.
those kinds of
Yes.
things. So I think we all
Absolutely.
have kind of our grouping,
Absolutely.
our soul group, if you want to call
Totally.
it, our
Yeah.
ancestral group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And my experience can be totally different than your experience. And so,
Mhm.
and it doesn't make either of them better than the other. It just
Mhm.
adds more layers, to the integrity of the the healing that's happening. And also it just also shows your relationship with the universe.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is so nice.
Yeah.
So we've determined, or you've determined and clarified, that it's of the heart and the soul. It's not of the mind.
Yeah.
Do things shut down for you when the mind gets in the way? Or I mean, you've done this so much, it probably doesn't happen, but
It used to. Totally.
Mhm.
Yeah, my mind would have all sorts of thoughts of what was happening, how weird and strange it was.
As the 18-year-old on the beach trying to figure out what the heck was happening for you.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Well,
Yeah.
it was mainly like, yeah, that too, but it was mainly when I was starting to work with clients. I'd be like, it's like, this can't be doing what it's like, I can't believe this, and blah, blah. And so I actually got through that by saying, like, I do light language outside of working with clients, and I'd speak those fears whenever they'd show up, just to be able to witness them. Because outside of those fears, like, I knew that what was coming through was working. And so that really deep intuitive sense um, was making me basically shuffle through and question those fears, because they were surface value. They didn't have they didn't have the depth, but they felt like they would obliterate the experience if I let them. So I had to bring them fully to consciousness, and now they just barely show up. Now it's just like I'll just fall into a light language session, and I'll be like, okay, where are we and what are we doing and like what's happening? Like,
Do you have any memory afterwards of what went on? Like, do you disappear into the realms and to come back and reiterate it becomes difficult?
right, yeah. So it's like a dream. So when you, like, for both parties, um, so the practitioner and also the receiver. So when you listen to uh, a light language session, or when I'm giving one, or I'll just speak on terms of myself because I know that best. But when I'm giving a session, I'll write down immediately afterwards all the things I can remember. Or what's been happening lately is it's been coming through as I'm doing the session. And so, like, saying what is happening will come through in English terms. And then it'll go right back to light language. So there'll be like little intermittents of what's happening. And so then I don't end up having to remember what has happened. And once in a while, I'll get um, like an impression or two that just linger for the day, and then they're gone. So it's basically for the person, and
Mhm.
less to do with me. But it's definitely fascinating, that's for sure.
Oh, very fascinating. So I
Yeah,
have a curiosity.
yeah,
That is, I know two other people besides you,
yeah.
like just locally, that,
Oh,
yeah, that do this. And also I follow a couple of people online as well. And
good for
I'm
you,
always,
Maureen.
I know, right? It's just so fun. I'm just fascinated with it. And it's so, if we got all of you in a room, could you talk light language and understand each other?
Wow, That's a really good question.
Do you have the
I've
answer?
never tried it.
Wouldn't that be so incredible?
Yeah, that would be amazing. Even one person. Yeah. There's something to be said also about how people connect when they do light language. Because some people speak what's called light language, what they call light language, but it's not light language. It's it's all about like where you source the language from.
Mm.
And so I guess I just want to say this just so that your listeners can kind of help suss out, who's authentic in front of them. Like everyone's authentic, but it's just on some level, but it's like where the where their information source energy is coming from. And so you could say I would be channeling my source self. Some people may be bringing through like their own ego self or their uh, typewriter. It's just like something that doesn't have the energetic uh, abilities as someone who is working with the high frequencies can have. And so just being aware of that, and you can sense it like when you're listening to a light language activation. um, and it's like if you just allow it, because first of all it could be it takes a little bit getting used to as well. Get a dead given, okay, because it's like oh my gosh, what is going on here, right? It's like this person speaking light language, and it's possibly going to be a shock for people at first, possibly, and maybe not, because sometimes it speaks so deeply to their core that they're in awe. Okay, so it's best when listening to light language not to try and think too much about what is happening or what is, it's like getting out of the mind into the heart. So it's like going into the feeling place, so you can close your eyes and listen. And so or you can keep your eyes open, but it'll be two different experiences, and you can assess that out for yourself. But yeah, so for listening for the authenticity, listening for the light that comes through. Often what will happen during a session is just a feeling of it's like feeling of goodness, of comfort, of um, um, I don't know, what would you say the feelings are that come through, Maureen, that you've
Well, can I
experienced?
take it back to what the question
Sure.
was?
Yeah.
Because I just want to, so what I'm hearing you say is that we need to trust in the authenticity and the mastery of the person that we would put ourselves before,
Yes.
who we would employ to do this for us. So it's that resonance that you just spoke of. Like,
Yeah.
I think that has to exist between you and the, the practitioner. I don't like the word practitioner. That doesn't suit you.
Yeah.
But, an energy worker. So you would have to feel into that, would you? And see if they're a vibration or frequency match for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that right now YouTube is just a total gem for that, because um you can experience different like language practitioners on there, and some may feel more aligned than others, right? So and it's a good way to kind of like suss out, who works for you, and then you can follow them, and then be like, um whenever they come up with things that they're feeling are important to share, it could be aligned with you. So
Mm-hmm. Well,
yeah.
it's not unlike going in for a massage with somebody new, and
Yeah.
in the first like 3 minutes, like, I am so not enjoying this, or this is the best ever. Like, it can be
Yeah,
one or the other.
totally.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
there's always going to
exactly.
be the really great matches, and every
Yeah.
once in a while you go, well, okay, I just learned that
Yeah.
maybe that's not my way
Yeah.
to come and approach this. So
And there's different innate languages out there, like light languages. So I
mm.
speak a particular kind of language that some people just freak out on because they're just like, I know that. It's like it's the soul
Oh,
language, right? And so,
wow.
but then there's, and so, but there's that's like a group of individuals, and so I'm positive that there's other, people out there who speak because they're so particular about this being a particular type of light language. And I know for myself too, whenever I hear something like that's coming through me, like my whole bones start like shaking and like start like restructuring and releasing, and
Mhm.
it's just like it's like where I've come from on some level. And so there's other I'm sure of it that there's other light language practitioners that come from different places, where people will have more resonance with, right?
Mhm.
If they're not aligned with me, or they have a different alignment kind of thing. So
It's reminding me of like a little, well, I have a little share here. Like when I was younger, much younger, much younger, I used to wake up and, or I, during, it was during my sleep, but I would wake others up because I would be laughing just my face off. And then I would start speaking some foreign language that nobody knew. And I did that a lot of times, like with your
Wow.
teenage friends. And
Yeah.
then, if you go
Yeah.
camping with people and stuff like
You're
that.
fooling around, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, but it's like, holy smoke, like maybe we all have kind of crazy little experiences that may
Mm,
have been, kind of light languages wanting to come through us, yet we weren't
mm,
aware enough to welcome them
mm.
and invite them forward.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the
So,
social
mm,
biases,
well, that too, but
embarrassment.
having no recollection of, and you just have this funny story coming at you, and you sit there all embarrassed the next day. But so, I mean, there's the acceptance for what you do as well, which I'm sure is huge.
You mean like self-acceptance and
Well, just in your collective, in your personal collective, like people that know you,
oh, okay, right, yeah. Mhm.
right?
Yeah, it's nice to that's part of the reason why I went on to YouTube too, is because it was something where I was doing for myself and for clients, but I was like, I would love to get out there more and just be more visible so that I can connect with more people and hear feedback, and so yeah, it's leveling up. Basically, it's another whole level of acceptance of community,
Mhm.
and the more I research it too, like I'll go into spurts of like, okay, what is this about it, um and start learning and just be like, oh my gosh, like there's so many people who know stuff that I resonate with, and they just put words to it. And so it's like great. Yeah. And so it's like learning about other light language practitioners who I really like, basically. Hmm.
We all find each other, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Now,
like attracts like.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you use hand motions as well, do you?
Yeah.
In it?
Hmm.
Can you
Yeah.
talk about that? Because I notice in all the people I
Mm.
looked at before preparing or before coming on here and in preparation,
Yeah.
everybody uses the signs or the
Yeah.
hand movements.
Right. Cool. Yeah. So it's usually basically my source self, or the guides that I'm working with are using my hands to direct energy.
Mm.
And so it's I would say it's a lot like a regular, like not regular, but like a light body, someone who's working on your light body. So it's like sometimes I find myself going like this,
Mm.
down someone's spine. And so I'll like hover over them, or if it's online, then it's like I see their energetic body in front of me and I'm working on it. But it'll be like a dissipation and a realigning of the spine. So it's like letting all of that like stagnant energy flying out, right? And so it's like there's different things where like this is often like sending energy. So my palm up against the, for those who are listening on the audio, um, my palm, towards the screen is often sending energy directly to somebody. And yeah, so it's in practical terms, it's what already our light workers are doing, all our energy workers. They're doing similar things, but this is just being guided by spirit.
Does light language ever kind of filter into your daily speech? Like if you're in conversation with somebody, does it kind of trip in there?
That would be awesome. Um, I speak to my cats a lot with light language,
Ooh.
and they can hear it, they understand it, and they go into a totally different zone when I'm speaking it compared to when I'm speaking from my mind. Because they're already heart orientated, right? And this is a very heart orientated language, and so they can hear everything that I'm saying. Um, I speak, it's a different dialect altogether. It's not through words, right? So
Mhm.
when I'm speaking, for instance, with my cats, it's it's energy, it's feeling, it's the general sense of what I wanted to say with my mind, but it's through a whole different mechanism. And so it's hard to describe. But yeah, no, it hasn't gone into that level with regular people at this point. But I am feeling guided, more guided on my YouTube videos to do more integration. So it's like as I'm speaking about what's happening, to just let the light language come through if it wants to, rather than having just one segment space for it.
Mhm.
So we'll see how that evolves.
So speaking of segments, we talked before we got on here that it would be just so grand to have you do a little light
Yeah.
language. Would we call it a demo? Or I think we're just going to, you were going to offer sort of a clearing or something like that for us today.
Yeah, for sure. For those who are curious about it and they haven't tried it yet. So, or
Mhm.
those who are just who maybe already know about it, but
Mhm.
maybe this little light language session will help. So,
Mhm.
what are we going to do about again?
Well, we talked about how over the last almost 3 years that we've been challenged with respect to trusting the brilliance of our own immunity.
Mm,
And there's been a lot of fear and confusion about our freedom to exercise personal choice.
mhm.
And so at the end, it's trusting our innate ability to be well. And
Right.
we thought that might be a really good one to jump into. Is that still feeling like a good
Mhm,
idea?
mhm. Let me just talk to my guides. Are you all right with that? So
Mhm.
I'll just tune in with them and just see what is coming through. Yeah. So what's coming really strongly through is like the robustness of the um, immunity, and knowing, it's that deep knowing that the immunity can work, can do its magic.
Mm.
And so I think during this time, this past few years, um, we might have been chiseled down a bit. It's like starting to doubt our ability to look after ourselves. When there's so much doubt around us, then it's like that can definitely, even if we're not totally aware of it, it can rub us, a bit. And so I can do a clearing down of that charred, that negative. It's like that doubt in our own natural ability for our immunity to work, and a leveling up for our immune system, if that sounds good.
That sounds great. So if people want to stick around for the next couple of minutes while you do that with us, that would be just wonderful.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Cool. So what we'll do then is, if you would like to get into a comfortable position, if you can, to sit down or lay down. Um, uh, as an audio or video watcher, and so I'm just going to call in our source selves, and then I shall begin. So just taking a deep breath or two, letting everything just be released, like any thoughts or anything that is keeping us from this moment in time. Just knowing that all of life is being taken care of at this moment, and that it's all right and perfectly safe just to be in this moment. So I'd like to call upon your source self, that aspect of you who lives mostly, the larger part of you that lives in source, that wise guidance, also known as the higher self sometimes. And I ask that this light language session be exactly what you need, and that it helps to look after that any doubt in your ability to look after yourself, and that it re-energizes that your immune system into a higher level of octave of functioning, of wisdom, of intelligence. So just allow these words to wash over you, this light language to wash over you. Masa shatarakia umoka ais ishita taria ko sititina mokorarias osh orikina mana ayas orea gaias osh in the erak ariam morat arias oshonanaya kata ursea mogona ayako orana ayak os ishu ono mokos enetiana dana. Oya que te mok orot oshet aring moro notaya. Kaya koroto oshoto onyana. Porot ayar ko insienshats eopukoshata. Push se tia tone ka se pushata. It's like the energy is just being flicked off you. All of that like dense energies that's being projected. Bos eshetatea karitera mukotiane de rata setianana. Horaka anamukosh hosetiana. Ay karatse akaru fushanane bona. Ayakotsiono korata, and a realignment of your source self at this time. Mokoshatari hoyu korona. Ayaka anata. Si inapushanana kianana. Aileki as indushotoron pokoona. Areke anata setiatata siankombo. This has to do with the clearing down of your connection with the source self. Your higher wisdom, your guidance. Oh, eshatatana, iakarana uhuhuhuinak enasechatana. Oh, yatana setiana kael asirshitamo corona de ana. Knowing that you're not alone. Yes, Positetana. Biasetateata. Kenena ats ejata ayakaratata. Hesitata, resuscitating your immunity. Sitita, sitita, bokantiana, the sitita, in all the ways that it needs. Positata, deta, teketa, the pushata, tekena, bukosetiata, tekena, sitita, umuchatan, teas, tea, bokona. Nemukotats, edetia, tet orona, mokasetinda, chatan. Alekena mokorona sena napa. So just allowing this to wash over you for the next minute or so as it works on your subtle energies still. Knowing that you can always come back to this light language session in this podcast at any point and re-listen if you feel like you are ready for another upgrade. May you be blessed in all ways. May your immunity be beautifully blessed. Often I suggest that people relax for 5 to 10 minutes afterwards, but because this was kind of a short one, you may not need as much time. But if your listeners are needing a bit more time before we go into a bit more talk, then feel free to pause the video or the podcast for a few moments until you're ready. And when you feel ready to open your eyes, go ahead and do so.
Thank you.
You're welcome. How are you feeling, Maureen?
Oh my gosh. I just loved it. Thank you.
Awesome.
It always makes me so happy.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. It's so vibrant and it's something that resonates for me and within me and around me. And when you think of us being all these cells vibrating together to make this me, the human being, and you, the woman over there, it's beyond comprehension. So if I imagine how much energy is available within just the vibration of that, it's huge.
It almost feels atomic, hey? Where it's like it's so much bigger than what we think two cells could be or a cell could be. It just like it's magnificent.
I listened to a little clip by Bruce Lipton this morning, who wrote the book The Biology of Belief. And he was talking about how we talk about we don't want to be programmable, but he said you do, because you can program every cell in your body to be on point with the robust nature of your humanity and immunity, and coordinate that with your consciousness and your spirituality. Like it was just very, very brilliant little piece by him that really resonated for me.
That's so cool.
What I see and really feel strongly is that people like you are here to remind us of the grandness of whom we are in this earth body experience.
Oh, Maureen, that's so sweet. Wow.
So I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I can feel lots of gratitude coming to you from so many places
Mm,
and
well, I
from
feel
those who
really,
have watched. Yes.
uh, well, thank you so much. I feel really grateful to have the chance to talk about it, get it out there a bit more and help people understand that there's another healing modality um, that may be of alignment for them.
Mm.
I always find it fascinating whenever I come across healing modalities that are just like, oh my gosh, it's like that's perfect. It's like I want that right now. It's like the next thing that'll take to the next level, kind of, whatever it is.
Mm.
So, may this, assist people in all the right ways, in such beautiful ways, moving forward in their lives. If they feel called, may it assist them in all these ways. Yeah.
Deep
Cool.
gratitude to you. Much love. We'll
Thank you.
put information below the podcast when it airs, just so people can catch up with you and
Yeah.
find you on YouTube. What is your YouTube little?
The handle.
Yeah.
So it's YouTube / and then the at mark, the at, and
Yeah.
then Gaianna. So it's Gaianna. So that'll take you directly to my page. I know I got my first name. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. That's amazing.
It's awesome.
I
That's
know.
so great.
Yeah.
Aw. Well, thank you so much. And from the bottom of my heart, have a great day. And I look forward to talking again.
Thanks so much, Maureen, and blessings right back at you.
Thank
Mwah.
you.